I just want to start with one of my favorite quotes from really an inspirational man many, many years, decades ago, Joseph Campbell, those of you that might know Joseph. And one of his great quotes is, "We must be willing to let go of the lives that we have planned in order to have the lives that are waiting for us." And it's one of the great quotes I've had for many years that sort of really embodies not only what I'm doing right now, but what we need to do as a world and as a society is we need to move from this sort of really fixation, and we've heard it already this morning, around having to know everything, having to have certainty of what tomorrow is going to be and what next week is going to be, and God forbid, we for sure need to know what 5 years from now looks like. And if we don't, then we should be stressed and freaked out, as opposed to, I love to tell people, you know, the unknown, you cannot create from the known. You must create from the unknown. It is literally the most juiciest place to be in your lives, is the unknown. It should not be, will there be some, you know, a few moments of, but the unknown is the way that we need to chart our future. And it is the one that we get to design rather than the ones, you know, kind of handed to us. And of course, I love hanging out in the unknown because it's just super fun for me. But I'm trying to sort of, as you can see, try to convince, you know, more and more people to join, you know, this space, because it is where we get to design our future. And unless you haven't been paying attention, the future that appears to be ahead of us, I'm not that crazy about. We must design a better one. Because we can. We absolutely can. When I wasn't intending to talk about sort of the genesis of Imaginea, I think a lot of people have heard that story before. I don't want to necessarily repeat it. But in terms of, you know, the short version is that, you know, I've been trying to make a difference my whole life. Since the time I've had consciousness, I'm a deeply curious person, and I'm mostly deeply curious about what I can do. And what I can, you know, make a difference in the world. I want to, you know, leave this world knowing that, you know, I left it a better place, you know, than I got here. And so you kind of go through life also sometimes convincing yourself that you are making a difference. And you probably are. But where my life really got rocked in a really spectacular way was at my time with Richard Branson at his leadership gathering, when I had a deeply humbling moment, when I realized that I had more that I could do to make a difference in the world that I wasn't. And it was like really deeply humbling when you come to that realization that, you know, I actually have probably more boldness, more talent, more brains, more something that can make an even bigger difference in the world. Because if you also haven't been paying attention, you know, we have some seriously big problems. We have 1 billion people without food and clean water in this world. Like 1 billion people. Like, how did we get there? How did we not care enough about that? We're destroying one of the largest ecosystems in the world. Like, we have some really crazy stuff that is happening, and we need some amazing solutions. We need everybody to sort of dig deeper into that space to sort of saying, am I doing everything that I have gifts and talents to do to make a difference in this world? In creating new solutions in the unknown, in changing what we've been doing into something better. That, you know, we've been living so unconsciously. We live in a society of waste and consumption of epic proportion because we just can't. Like, how did we get there too? So when I came back from, obviously, Necker Island, you know, from, you know, my large epiphany, I cannot not do this. Like, people sort of, you know, ask, you know, how do you, it's like, I'm telling you, I don't care whether people think I'm crazy, whether you think I cannot do it, whether it's wrong, it is irrelevant to me. I cannot not do this because I know with every fiber of my being is that A, we need to do it, is that we can do it, and oh my God, it is gonna be ridiculously fun. Like, the unknown to me is the place where we can create something that is that much better. That it's not a place, I have no time for a pity party, none. In terms of, are we facing challenges? Yeah, sure. Our challenges are nothing compared to what most of the known world faces in terms of every day. Do we have challenges? Absolutely. We should just, chew problems for breakfast and sort of going, that's no problem with respect to, we have so much that we have been given, we have so much that we have the capacity to do, and we just need to sort of pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and be thinking, how do we need to change? So when I came back from Necker Island to create Imaginea, because I was actually thinking of leaving, the oil and gas industry, because there's, many things that are offensive to me about it. But that, apparently the universe didn't really want me to do that, as opposed to, it likely, meaningful, long-lasting change comes from within. We can huck rocks, outside of our industry, but it's really going to take those of us that are inside to truly change it. And so, in Necker, when I was kind of looking around going, who am I waiting for? Like, we ask ourselves that lots, right? It's like, oh, well, I'll follow them if they do that. I sat there going, who am I waiting for? And when I got up and I told Richard and the group that I was going home to change my industry, I also said, clearly I might not be the most capable to do this, but I am going to be the most willing. And quite often, we diminish our capabilities or what we think we can't do because we think we can't do it. That should not be our barrier. The only barrier of entry into doing something extraordinary is whether we think we are willing to try. I was speaking at the U of A a couple months ago, and this lovely young gentleman got up, and he wasn't trying to be negative, but because I talk about changing the world all the time. So he got up and he says, do you really think you can change the world? And so I said, of course. I said, it's actually quite easy. So then I have his attention, it's like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. I says, changing the world is actually quite easy. It only requires two things. Now I have him completely riveted that I'm about to reveal this secret sauce. I says, changing the world only requires you must want to, and then you must try. It's actually quite simple. And so we have been lacking, a lot of wanting to, that we have, received so much abundance from the industry that we have, is that we have not had enough desire to want to change it. And so I came back and it's like, damn it, I'm going to at least try. If I go down in a blazing ball of glory, well, so be it. We can put on my epitaph that I tried. But the exciting part, as I have charted Imaginea forward, is, and I formulated it, as an entrepreneur, is that, I think we're missing this enormous opportunity to smash energy and environment together, that they actually belong together. As opposed to, if you think about, we've separated society in every unhealthy way we can possibly imagine. Race, religion, gender, politics. In my industry, you're either a crazy tree hugger or you're a greedy capitalist. Those are your two options. I don't care what problem you're trying to solve, two solutions is a very limited solution set. As opposed to, on Necker, is like, hang on, what about all these permutations and combinations in between those two extremes of possibilities of solutions in the and world? Why can't we make great profits and not wreck the planet at the same time? Is there some rule book? I guarantee you there's no rule book that says we cannot do this. And in fact, it affords us, so many more opportunities to do that. And to come home and to, basically be bold enough to say that we can actually have a new kind of energy company that values planet, people, and profit, all three. We can absolutely do this. When you look at the annals of history, the greatest advancements that we've made in humankind are on the backs of human ingenuity. When we invented that round thing called the wheel, that was pretty cool. It had a lot of meaning. We just have to, tap into that beautiful imagination that we have as human beings in order to do this. So our high dream, they asked me to talk about, our high dream of Imaginea, which gets me, oh my God, excited more and more as it continues to articulate itself, because I was in Paris for the climate change summit that I'll talk about in a little bit. But our high dream is that we can produce clean hydrocarbons. I define them, Imaginea defines them as hydrocarbons that we produce that have produced without emissions, without pollution, and without the use of fresh water. Those are clean hydrocarbons, and that we can absolutely produce them. And the cool part is that when we produce clean hydrocarbons, then we can produce clean hydrocarbon products. There's been, it's kind of distressing a little bit because we have a society where we love to label stuff and make it simpler than it should be. And so fossil fuels, for the most part, have been labeled, evil with respect to that. And for sure, the fossil fuels that we use to burn in combustion vehicle engines, which only translate 20% into forward motion and pollute at the same time. Like, we drive heaters, we don't really drive cars. It's inefficient from an energy perspective, and then we pollute at the same time. Those have got to go the way of the dodo. And they are, for sure. But we have fossil fuels. Hydrogen and carbon are going to be two super important molecules of the future. Is that everything, probably half of the clothes in this room, I know mine are made out of hydrocarbons. Plastics are a huge component of the future of the world. That we can produce clean hydrocarbon products, that we can have plastics that came from a source that did not produce with emissions, pollutions, or the use of fresh water. Lego is looking for a new plastic source because its consumers are demanding it. Nike has got all sorts of funky fibers from oil and are looking to change their sustainability footprint. It is a new emerging market that we can have absolute excitement about entering. We can produce clean hydrocarbon energy. When I was in Paris, one of the general narratives is that all energy being produced by fossil fuels needs to be replaced by renewables. And hey, we need lots more renewables, but one of the big debates at COP in Paris was the cost of this is astronomical. And everyone's been debating who is paying for this. So one of the sad part is that where I got excited, actually, I came back from Paris kind of on steroids, is that no one's really talking about, because there's still this or world, that fossil fuels are all bad. As opposed to, no, guys. If we can change the product that we are producing, hey, we have to change this product or we are Detroit. The world is moving to clean, affordable energy with or without us, mostly without us right now. As opposed to if we change the product that we produce and produce a clean hydrocarbon, we can actually get to the same place faster and more economical. For be it right or wrong, we have spent 5 decades building an infrastructure of a fossil fuel industry. And it is an economic tragedy to just strand all those assets, turn the switch and start from scratch. This is just economically not viable. Why would not we use what we already have to get to the same place faster and more economical? To create a greater basket of opportunities of how we create clean energy and not just have to rely on renewables, which aren't applicable everywhere, which have, they're not a panacea either, is to add to the breadth of the opportunity basket that we have in terms of clean hydrocarbons. So we have the amount of opportunities that we have to also break down the paradigms. We have an industry, we have a very old energy industry. Sorry for the pun on that word, but we have had a hyper-competitive industry. It has been destructive. We have wasted an enormous amount of value by fighting for the pieces of the pie, as opposed to, what if we spent the same time and energy, rather than being better than each other, of actually bringing out the best in everybody? We have wasted opportunities because we are unwilling to share and we're unwilling to collaborate. There's so much. Tom, in one of his many hats that he does so well, is working on an opportunity for collaboration with greenhouses. I might be growing hothouse tomatoes on my, it's like, get yourself out of the box. How 2 of my waste products are CO2 and heat. What are the 2 biggest costs of greenhouses? CO2 and heat. Why? It only makes sense that we would explore how would you smash those 2 things together? That we get outside of our own sort of thinking of what we know. It's like, well, that's how we do it. Well, great, but what about the other 14 different ways that we could do it? And we need to sort of expand that thinking of where we've been just really stuck in boxes, is to, Dan referred to rock the boat. I actually prefer the theory of burn the boats. Sort of a Cortese kind of more leadership style. It's like, in fact, we have, Imaginea, we have a very different culture. It's flat, we have no hierarchy, it's very collaborative, it's very creative, innovative. It works on systems, ecosystems. It takes a while to kind of get used to. But in terms of, we potentially, burn everything. So we have a little quotes that people can read of the people that are inside Imaginea. It's like, what's your advice to somebody coming into Imaginea? So everyone, gives their quotes, and one of them is basically, forget everything you've ever known. You're about to take the blue pill and enter the matrix. That comes with some angst for, some of our people inside Imaginea, and I don't say it necessarily glibly, but it is sort of the mentality that we have adopted, is that some days we are happy to burn the boats, that we have now probably one of the first oil and gas companies that we have no physical well files. And that's like a standard fare for any industry. Nobody would say, what, how? And I tell people, it's like, did you you still have them though, right? It's like, no, we shredded them. And it's like you could just see the angst in people. It's like, whoa, but, so, we are just prepared to do that because the future that is ahead of us in the unknown has some absolutely spectacular opportunities. One of my biggest problems is the amount of ideas that I have and that gets sent to us is enormous. Trying to filter, trying to focus on, holy crap, which one of these ideas, are we going to focus on? We're actually going to create a separate company called Imaginea Accelerator to actually move these technologies further, farther, faster, because there's so many and they're so relevant, and we need to move quickly. That's one of my other messages that I try to tell people. We have been trained so long to be in the linear, Newtonian, Darwinian world. Like society, companies, most people are very well trained and conditioned in this. I hate to tell you, that's not how the world works, particularly now. They are projecting by the end of this decade, so less than 4 years from now, every human being on this planet will have the opportunity to be connected to the internet. That is billions of people coming online. We are going to be instantly all connected. The rate of pace of change in technology, I was at an innovation conference in California, and I'm a possibility junkie. I live breathing, and I'm in this conference, and my mouth is hanging open like, oh my God. I wrote down, I've got to go faster. Because the pace of change is crazy. They're projecting by 2029, we are going to pass the Turing test. I don't know if you know the Turing test. It's where you can differentiate artificial intelligence and humans. We will pass that. They are projecting by 2040, in my lifetime still, that artificial intelligence will be completely integrated with our brains. Like some crazy, Elon Musk yesterday, that we are only 9 years away from having people on Mars. Like the thinking that if you think it's like, oh, well, if it actually changes, I'll have time to catch up, you will not. You will not have time. Like it is an exponential growth. It is a systems thing of that, the people that are debating climate change, it doesn't work like that. That small little changes can actually make devastating changes in our world, and vice versa. Tiny little changes can make absolutely amazing results. It doesn't have to take decades to redo the damage that we've done. We need our brains, we need our hearts to just dig deeper into what is the future that we want. It was one of my great epiphanies that has, deeply motivated me to, kind of exponential levels, when I sort of had to admit that we are being selfish. We are consuming our planet in a way that is leaving the next 5, 10 generations with less of a planet. Why would we do that? Like, what gives us the right to be that selfish? As opposed to, why can't we give up some of the convenience that we've been so, God, we have a society of convenience. It's like, why? I go down back alleys and it's like, where do you think this garbage goes? It doesn't magically disappear. That we're consumers, that we're unconsciously just not thinking about everything that we're doing. The world is full of amazing opportunities, like amazing. We have to open our eyes to see them, because you cannot see cannot do what you can't see. And we need to sort of, put the mirror up and sort of ask ourselves, not in a negative or a debilitating or a diminishing way, but sort of in a reflective way to sort of saying, what, as it's been talked about here, what am I doing to make a difference in the world? And can I make a bigger difference? It doesn't matter. You don't have to do what I'm doing. You don't have to even believe what I'm doing. Get up in the morning and find something that you are deeply, deeply passionate about, that you are going to do regardless of reward or recognition, regardless of whether people tell you you can or can't, because we are hardwired for meaning. We're human beings. As much as the corporate world has made us try to believe that we're only motivated by money, it is not true. It's just not true. We're human beings. We're motivated by meaning and purpose. We actually want to be, talked about again earlier, we want to find something that's bigger than ourselves. And we want to be led there. We want to be inspired to be there. We don't want to be beaten into it. We don't want to, it's one of the most epic tragedies that I find in society today, is that people think they do not matter. It is one of the most saddest things I see. They don't think it matters that they do, that they litter or don't recycle, or that, oh, who cares? And also they don't care, or they don't think it matters if they're just kind to one person that day. It's like, God, that person cared. Like, how did we get to the point where we think that we don't matter? Robots are going to likely replace everything we do sort of mechanistically in the next 20 years. So one of the things as human beings we need to gravitate to is the things that we excel at as human beings, which is our imagination, which is dreaming of really cool stuff, which is not looking back to sort of use our history as a, linear line of where it could be, but actually to look into that unknown and to sort of saying, what could I imagine that future to look like? And to use those dreams, and then to find the courage inside of us to go and do them. Because dreams without action just sort of remain as dreams, as opposed to, dreams with actions are visions, that come true. So my wish today is that, you see the world as an enormous amount of opportunity. That, again, I'm not diminishing. There's lots of people that are suffering, etc. I'm not making light of that, but there's so many things that we have to be grateful for. One of the great teachings when I was in Ecuador, then when I lived with Indigenous people, was that they asked, why do you guys worry, and guys meaning North Americans, why do North Americans worry so much about what they don't have? And you think about it, I sat there, it's like, what would be an answer that wouldn't sound stupid? If you have one, let me know, because I couldn't think of one. Like, it's really crazy, as opposed to the Indigenous people will tell you, we are just grateful for what we have, and we try to figure out what to do with what we have. What a beautiful, the Indigenous people, by our standards, have nothing. And yet I can assure you, they are happy, they are peaceful, they are communal, and they are connected to our earth in a way that we could learn a lot. We could learn, they taught me an enormous amount of how to be, a better steward and a better inhabitant, of this planet. So hopefully, today when you go home and talk to your family or look yourself in the mirror, because I cannot change the world by myself. I need as many people as possible to come with me. And you don't have to do it like we do. Again, find something that you care about. Find a problem that really bugs you. And then find a solution to it and find a way forward. Because we absolutely can do this. Thank you very much.